Hello? Put the music on pause. Hello? How are you? Hmm? Hmm? What's going on? Yo, I gotta talk to y'all this morning. I had a message for y'all last night, but my phone died. And so I was like, yo, fuck. Like, I couldn't even finish. I kind of was already there, but I didn't climax that thing. I didn't get to, good morning, Sherry. How are you? I didn't get to climax. You know what I'm saying? That ending, that punch, that power that I like to come with. But it's okay. I'm full of energy this morning. Had me some 2 coconuts last night. I'm on my 3rd one. I'm drunk off the cocoa. You feel me? I'm drunk off the cocoa. Nothing but raw coconut is the best, right? So, I just wanted to come this morning. I see you, Martel. How are you? Hey, my divine, how are you? My divine being, my divine other. Good morning, good rising. Hey, you know what I like to say? Great sunrise. This is another great sunrise. So I say great sunrise instead of morning. You know what I mean? That word morning is like death. So we say great sunrise. Could you look outside? What a great sunrise. Yes, it is a great sunrise. So let's go into this. Let's not like prolong it, right? Give you a little monologue, anything like that. But I want to just basically tear into talking about spirituality versus divinity. Number one, spirituality. See, I got a band-aid on you see, I got a band-aid today. Band-aid, I cut myself yesterday with a knife, I do a lot of cooking. And I got a boo-boo. Kiss it. Kiss my boo-boo. Can't see it. Anyway, it hurt it. It hurt it. It hurt it like that knife. I felt that knife go through my thumb. I was like, I fainted. I was like, oh my God. I fainted. Okay? I felt the knife, the sharp blade go through. I was like, oh, somebody stop. Oh, it made my stomach cringe. Anyway, I'm a big boy. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm having fun today. I'm really energized today. I'm really energized. See, my roots are getting longer. You feel me? They're getting longer. If you see it in the beginning where they started from, they was babies. They was like tiny. You feel me? Gotta put some aloe juice in it today. Aloe. I make my own aloe shampoo with aloe plants. I shampoo my hair with aloe. That's why you see my hair got a lot of white stuff in it. That's aloe. If you see my hair on video and it got a lot of white stuff in it, it's nothing but aloe plant, okay? Anyway, I'm sidetracked, okay? Divinity, spirituality and divinity are 2 different things, right? Well, let's not really separate them from a technological understanding. Let's really truly understand that spirituality is really covering the broad scope of all religion, all beliefs, all personal practices and stuff like that. This is what spirituality covers. And so this is why people ask you, what's your spirituality? Because you have so many denominations of spirituality. You have so many forms of spirituality. But if you go back and look into the ancestral history, the ancient history of our ancestors, you will see in the ancient history of our ancestors, they didn't practice spirituality. Now we call it spirituality because that's what it's been painted with on a broad scope. It's been painted with, this broad scope called spirituality because it was covering the basis of all philosophy, all theology, all theosophy, all that kind of stuff, right? All religion, right? But when you have divinity, this is different. Divinity is what? The practice of sacred righteousness. This isn't, you're not gonna Google this. I'm giving you the best. I'm giving you the I'm giving you the modified version of what divinity is instead of trying to go into a very long, deep breakdown of divinity. The modified version of what divinity is basically the practice of sacred righteousness. Now, why sacred? Why is it called sacred? Why use the word sacred, right? Well, because these practices were sacred. These practices were sacred and indigenous to a certain people. These practices were sacred and indigenous to certain tribes, certain groups, certain villages, certain people that practiced them. So they were sacred to their culture. You understand? They were sacred. And these were the practices of, sacred divinity, or the practice of divinity is practicing sacred righteousness, right? Now, what this word righteousness is different from what you may believe it to be. This word righteousness comes into play as to, watch this, as to practice what one believes is right within their soul. It has nothing to do with, oh, this is right or it's wrong in that sense, like we use the word righteousness, but righteousness is the practicing of, in the sense of what our divinity was about. What our divinity was representing, or our divinity was about back in our ancient ancestral history. When you look back, they practiced divinity, not spirituality. Divinity was the practice of something sacred to them, indigenous to them, sacred. It was sacred. So you call it sacred righteousness. Sacred meaning it was only for their practice. It was only for them. It was only for them to practice. It was kept within their culture or their group or their tribe or their village or their community or whatever, their family. It was only kept secret or sacred amongst them. Now, righteousness was to practice that which they believed in. This was their higher up, or their higher God, or their deity, or their religion in a way. And we painted all of divinity. We painted divinity with spirituality. Nothing wrong with that, really, in the sense, technological sense. Nothing wrong with painting all systems of belief with this broad scope of spirituality. But if you notice, every time I do a video, you always notice I always say what? Divine message. Divine. Because I am practicing divinity. I am practicing my divinity, my sacred righteousness, my sacred beliefs. This is why I posted something online the other day. I used to blog a lot. I used to always blog. I don't blog no more. I still got my blog website, WordPress.com. WordPress, Marcus Inspires, www.marcusinspires.wordpress.com. If you want to go to my old blog site and read my old Christian views. I had a lot of Christian views on that website. I don't practice that religion any longer. But I still read the Bible, because it gives me a lot of reference points. But I don't practice that religion in my specific belief anymore. But I posted online that just because I don't practice that anymore doesn't mean that while I was practicing it, I wasn't righteous with it. I wasn't committed to it. I wasn't dedicated to it. I wasn't sold out to it. I was sold out to the beliefs because that was the indoctrination of my mind at the time before I woke up, to myself, to my divinity. This is why divinity is sacred. This is why it's sacred righteousness, because I woke up to my reality, or my consciousness, or my divinity, what I feel is right within me. And so I don't fault a Christian for practicing what they practice or believing what they believe, no matter how we regard it to be a made-up story, a fake story. It's astrology. It's got a lot to do with astrology, whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't hinder that person by telling them their beliefs are wrong for them, because they're practicing divinity, not spirituality. Divinity is the practicing of something sacred to whose belief? Their belief, right? This is what they're doing, that they're doing what is and feels right within their soul, within their being, within their consciousness, within their reality, because this brings them their reality. This brings them comfort. This brings them peace. This brings them, love. This brings them joy and happiness. So they're practicing what does it for them. But divinity, we practice divinity. In our ancestral history, when you look back, we were practicers. We practice divinity, which is righteousness, sacred righteousness, because we did things that was sacred and indigenous to our tribes, villages, whoever, wherever, our family. We practice these things, whether it was healing, okay, whether it was the practice of God, certain worshiping certain gods. You understand what I'm saying? Whether it was the practice of medicine, herbal, herbal medicines and stuff like that. Whatever you want to call it, or whatever you do, or call on certain spirits, or conjuring up certain spirits. Whatever it was that we practiced, it was sacred to us because this was how we found ourselves. This was how we found ourselves in this consciousness of what I call this conscious reality. This is how we found ourselves in this conscious reality. Okay? Pure coconut water is the best. It's always good. Always good. So, now what we need to understand is that, and I bring this message to you for a reason, for a purpose, for you to understand. For those of you, especially you who I call my African. Now, I spell African different, right? I spell African a lot different. I spell it A-F-R-I-K-I-N. Kin. See, I practice what is called Africanity. Africanity is the combination of three words. Africanity is the combination of three words. Africa, kin, and divinity. So I practice the conscious beliefs in sacred, I don't want to say the word religion, but sacred divinity. I practice the conscious beliefs in sacred divinity or sacred practices of my African, my kinfolk, these people I am kin to. I practice the sacred divine beliefs of my African kinfolk / ancestors divinity. So I practice Africanity because it is a combination of the divine sacred righteousness, the divine sacred righteous practices of my African ancestors and kinfolk. You understand what I'm saying? And this is what I bring this message to you for those of you who are going back to this African mindset. Those of you who are going back to this we're Africans and we're Africans and this is who we are. This is what we're believing. These are my ancestors and all that stuff, right? For those of you who are going back to Africa within the mind, and you're not in actually Africa, but you're over here in America, or you're in another part of the world, and you're practicing African religion, African spirituality, African beliefs, anything that has to do with that. If you are practicing that in a way, then you must understand, you must wake up, right? You must begin to wake up. Not wake up like, the song, stay woke, not like being woke, but you must wake up to the true practices of those beliefs. You must wake up to the true practices of that divinity. Because to practice, watch this, I'm going somewhere with this. This message is taking you somewhere, okay? So stay with me. To practice this, what we call, what we want to say spirituality. You must not paint yourself and your beliefs with such a broad brush. You must not paint your practices with such a broad brush, right? Our spirituality. But you must begin to see it as something that you personally, now watch this, you must look at it as something that you personally, regardless of how many people believe in the doctrine, no matter how many people believe in the belief, no matter how many people believe in the practices of it, you must personally take it on like it's your own, right? And you start to go in deep, so you start to delve so deep into that, where you begin to become that divine message, where you begin to become that part of your ancestors. You see, it wasn't just that they practiced these it wasn't just that they just woke up on Sunday and this is what they did on a Sunday, or they did it on a Wednesday. No, everything they did was within the scope, and everything they did was under the confines of that divinity. Every single thing, from the way they ate, from the way they slept, from the way that they talked to each other, from the way that they congregated, from the way they were, just in tune with nature and in tune with natural laws and universal laws, and the way they were so in tune. Everything that they did was the practice of their divinity. Everything. They didn't practice it and then stop to put it off for one day and then they went and did other things. No, this was their walk. This was their walk. And so I'm bringing this message to you for a reason. This was their walk. You understand what I'm saying? And the reason why is it's more so powerful when you look at it as something divine versus being spiritual, because you are doing this to such a degree where it's right. And here's the thing, when you do something with such a whole heart, the righteousness of that will come out of it through and through. And you don't have to figure it out. You don't have to go and search it out. You don't have to force anything. When you practice something with a whole heart, when you do something with the whole heart, the true righteousness of that which you are doing is going to pull itself out of you, and you're going to become it. Don't lose me. Don't lose me here. Okay? Don't lose me, because you need to get this. You need to understand this. So when we practice spirituality versus divinity, we need to basically scale it down. We need to scale this thing down into divinity. Take spirituality off of it and practice divinity, because you're practicing what is righteous, right? And what you believe in, and you're practicing what you believe in and you believe to be right. And so you're practicing this thing of righteousness. Everything you do is of righteousness. And so therefore, whether you have a history on it, any knowledge of it, any wisdom of it or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the history, the knowledge, the wisdom you have on it. Or it doesn't matter how educated you are in it. It does not matter. What matters is if you practice it with the whole heart. If you practice it with the whole heart, okay, the truth and the righteousness of that will pull itself out. It will pull itself out. And then it becomes a walk of life. It becomes your walk in life. It becomes a walk. It becomes a walk. So our ancestors, for those of you who practice this African spirituality, you're trying to go back to Africa in your mind and all of this stuff, and you're talking in your ashaying and you're pouring libations to the ancestors and all that, which is I'm not bashing and talking down that if you do that. What I'm saying is, what we need to do is don't just look at it surface wise. We need to go underneath that layer. We need to go underneath the layer of that. Let me show you something. Y'all think I'm playing? Okay, hold on. Let me show y'all something. All right, I want you to understand something in this book called Earth Energies, right? You need to understand something, okay? In this book called Earth Energies, you understand? Let me show you something here. I got to show y'all something. You see this? What do you see right there? What do you see? You see an image, okay? You see an image of a bunch of, watch this. I'm finna hit y'all with some I'm finna hit y'all with some real cold hard truths. Real cold hard truths. And these are like, I got a collection of these books. books. I have 20 of these kind of books, collection of them. Okay, I got one on like time and space, another one on like transformations, another one on conjuring, another one on phenomena, all that kind of stuff. Now, in this book, Earth Energies. In this book, Earth Energies. Okay? You need to see something. What you see there is what? A bunch of Catholic Roman priests. Right? A bunch of Catholic Roman priests. This is what you see. Now, I'm going to show you what they did to you, African. I'm going to show you what they did to you, African. So you need to, let me put on my, hold on. Let me put on my specs. Information. We there? Okay, phone not freezing? Okay, so let's read. Let's read. It's called Earth, Tori, it's called Earth Energies. It's called Earth Energies. It's about our spirituality. This book and a lot of other books is a lot of hidden truths in these books. I got a collection of these books. I might get them down for you. But let me read real quick. It says, for centuries, geomantic principles such as, watch me. For centuries, geomantic, geo is what? A word for geography, geology. Okay? The basic principles of basically physics, science. Okay? Physics and science. For centuries, geomantic principles such as building around centers and aligning. Okay, I'm seeing that. I'm seeing the video pausing, but I think it's good now. I think we're good. I see you. I see you. I thank you, Tori. I'm thankful for you telling me that. Appreciate that. But I gotta read now. Okay, let me read. Hold on. So it says, watch this. For centuries, geomantic principles such as building around centers and aligning to the points of the compass were at the heart of all city planning as people came together in ever-larging settlements. The Egyptian hieroglyphs signifying the ideal city was a circle divided in 4 equal parts. The symbol came to represent the Egyptian belief that a city was a microcosm of the earth. Now here is an image of the people in this book who took your divinity from you and gave you a religion. And now you're painting your divinity with this spirituality thing, with all of these religious things, and you're not understanding that from the beginning of time, that our practices, our righteousness was taken from us and put in their centers, as I just read for you. Let me read it again. And these are Catholic priests. These are Catholic priests. Now, these Catholic priests practice what religion? Catholicism, the worshiping of the Virgin Mary, Jesus's mother, bringing you the Bible. So let's go see what they practice, because they sure as hell do not practice what's in the Bible. Obviously they don't, because here is a book telling you what they practice. These people right here, they are practicing our divinity. They are practicing our righteousness, and gave you a religion. And people get mad at me for leaving the Christian church, because I was a devout Christian, you know, selling that Bible everywhere I went. And they have blinded you. These are images of the Catholic priest. And look at this one right here, looking exactly like the damn devil himself. He too. And what is that they got? They got a crucifixion, a cross. You understand? And you see that? You see that? That's a part of their Masonic beliefs. That right there, that little cap right there that you go to school and get your education through, that's a symbol of their Masonic beliefs. You understand that, cap and gown? This is, so you see these priests, all these priests, you understand? Catholic priests, evil looking mother, you know what I'm saying? Evil looking people. Who did what? Evil looking people who did what? To your divinity, your righteousness. Allow me to read it again as I sip my coconut, okay? Because it's coming right out of their book. It's coming right out of the earth, this book. Okay? A bunch of practices showing you the history of what, and the secrets of what they basically took from us and sold us. They usurped our divinity and gave us a false spirituality, a sense of believing. You understanding me? So let's go into it again. Let me read for you one more time. For centuries, geomantic, meaning geology and geography, it's like physics and science coming together. Geomantic principles, such as building around centers. These people building around centers and aligning to the points of the compass were at the heart of all the city planning. As people came together in ever large settlements, the Egyptian hieroglyphs signifying the ideal city. So where did they get their knowledge? Where did they get their beliefs? Where did they get their understanding of how we were connected to something higher than ourselves? Where did they get their understanding of that? Well, it's obvious. It's right here. I'm reading it for you. So here it is. The Egyptian hieroglyphs signifying the ideal city was a circle divided in 4 equal parts. The symbol came to represent the Egyptian belief, something that we practice, right? The Egyptian belief that a city was a microcosm of the earth, which in turn, watch this, I'm about to hit you with a big nugget, a meteor. I'm about to hit you with a meteorite, which in turn was a microcosm of the entire universe. I closed the book on you on that one. I closed the book on you on that one. Because what you need to know and understand is, for those of you who are coming to this spirituality awakening and you're looking at this thing from an African point of view, you need to understand that we were practicing something that was so divine. This is why it's called divinity, and I call it divinity, and this is why I preface my messages with I say divine message. I always say divine message, because it's a message of righteousness. It's a message of returning us back to our conscious minds. It's a message of returning us back to who we are, elevating our minds to who we are, where we were, going back to that which we believe. And here's the thing. Some of you are practicing beliefs and systems that don't belong to you. That don't belong to you. And so you are taking these beliefs and you don't even know what you're practicing. But wait a minute. They know what they're practicing. They build their sinners. They build their sinners around it in the middle of the city. They know what they're practicing. They know what the truth is. They practice the truth. And they sold us a lie. They practice the truth. And they sold you spirituality. They practice divinity. Righteousness. From our Egyptian hieroglyphs. And they sold you something different. They sold you the Virgin Mary. They sold you Jesus. This is what they sold you. And I see it because I've been given this to see. I see it because it's been given to me to bring to you. I see it because I read it. I read it. Okay? I read it. And what we must know, what we must understand is that we got to go back to practicing righteousness, divinity. The things they practice. The things that we were practicing back in our ancient ancestral, our ancestors were practicing back in ancient time before they came over and robbed us of our divinity. Before they came over and robbed us of our divinity. Now watch out for these missionaries. Be careful of these fuck-ass missionaries. And if you're a missionary on here, I'm talking to you. Because I know what the purpose of the missionary is. They have the missionary have a purpose. The missionary have a purpose. And their purpose is not true. Their purpose, they make it seem like their heart is true. They make it seem like they have a heart full of gold. And they're going over teaching you a belief. They're acting like they're teaching you this way of believing when actually they're not. They're not teaching you what to believe in that sense. You understand? So now you got these missionaries going over into Africa and they're usurping the divinity from the people. Bringing them of the divinity, bringing them spirituality, religion in a sense, robbing them of their divinity, bringing them spirituality in a sense, because spirituality covers all things, right? Religion, certain ritual practices, sorcery, wizardry. It covers a lot of stuff, spirituality. But what we're talking about here is under spirituality, we're talking about religion. Okay? Right now. Okay? And so you got these missionaries who go into these indigenous parts of the world, especially into Africa, and they take from the African their language, teaching them their language. They take from them let's just keep it short and sweet. They take from them their divinity. And to take from them their divinity is to take from them their language, is to take from them their beliefs, is to take from them their righteousness, is to take from them everything that they practice, and to bring them something, to bring them this bullshit. That's what they're bringing them. This fuckery right here. This shit right here. And so these people right here are the ones who are responsible for sending out the missionaries. They send out the missionaries. They've ordained people. They've ordained leaders. The church is ordained by the fucking Catholic Church. The church is ordained by the Vatican. The church is ordained by the Pope. You understand what I'm saying? And so every religious preacher, pastor, whoever you are, priest, they are all ordained to go and preach the gospel to the world. They're ordained by the Pope to do this. And they're ordained to do what? Bring in and usher in this. We're not even going to go here yet today, but we can. We can if we need to. But they are ushering in this one world system. I don't want to go there with that, but I can if I need to. And so they're bringing in this one world belief. And so everybody is speaking English all over the goddamn world. Nobody has their own language damn near anymore. And so English is becoming the universal language. Why? Well, when you are indoctrinating the children inside the school with this English speaking, teaching English, especially at a young age, the kid has no time to grow up and learn their own language. They're learning English, your language, the Euro man's language. And so the kid never has an idea of how to speak his own language. And that's a part of our divinity. Part of our divinity is our language. Just to be able to speak in our dialect. That's a part of our divinity. We kept that sacred. And so this is why I bring to you, you know, spirituality versus divinity. Because the practice of divinity was the practice of sacred righteousness. One of the things that was sacred to us as indigenous people was our language. We loved our language. We loved that we had a language and we spoke it. We spoke our language. Okay? We spoke our language. And they come in and they rob us of our language. Right? But what you must understand, watch this. I got to read something. I got to continue to read something. I got to continue to read. I got to go into it. I got to go deep into it for you to believe this, for you to get this, for it to get into your soul. You understand? As I was saying, part of our divinity was the practicing of our language, knowing our dialect, our language. So I say this, and I speak to the African, but I speak more so to the African in other parts of the world besides Africa. But Africa too. Africa, if not more so than anything else, there's a virus growing over in Africa. There's a malignant cancer growing over in Africa right now called the indoctrination of the European man. Yeah. There is a malignant tumor growing over and it's spreading like a damn cancer fast over in Africa, in parts of Africa, in Sierra Leone, where I just spoke with a brother today from Sierra Leone, and he was just telling me everything from Johannesburg, from speaking to a divine being over in Johannesburg, many divine beings in Africa I've been speaking to, giving me this knowledge, bringing this knowledge to me, and also doing my own study, understanding what is happening to the people, to us. And let me tell you something. There's a saying over here in America. There's a saying. It goes like this. It goes like, Africa, as Africa goes, so goes the world. As Africa goes, so goes the world. As Africa goes, so goes the world. Meaning, whatever happens to Africa is going to trickle down to the rest of the world. Whatever happens in Africa happens to the rest of the world. If Africa falls, the whole world falls. If Africa falls, the whole world falls. Why? Because they know the truth. These people know the truth. They went in there and they took the truth out, put it in their synagogues, put it in their Catholic churches, put it in their centers, and they practice the truth. They practice our truth. They practice our divinity. It's right here. It's right here. They practice our divinity. And they sold us a religion, a spirituality belief, or I would say more so a religion. Okay? But let me keep reading, because you need to catch on. Okay? You ready? All right, let's go. Watch this. We picking up from Okay, it was a microcosm of the earth, which in turn was a microcosm of the entire universe. And just as the earth was marked by its diversity, the quarters of the ideal city were different from one to the next. Ideals very similar to this Egyptian belief seem to have sprung up independently many parts of the world. Four-part designs are the fundamental planning schemes for cities as diverse as, I can't even say that word, Teotihuacan, I guess Teotihuacan, Baghdad, Winchester, and Washington, D.C. Now, what is this talking about? What are they talking about? Huh? Well, is it in here? I think it's in here. It is in here. I got to show you what they're talking about. I got to find it. You understand? And see, right here, this is what we were practicing. They're taking, this is in the same book. You understand what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? These are our ancestors right here, right? You're looking at our people right here. And they're going into these indigenous parts of the world, stealing and taking from these people, our people, religious, divine righteous beliefs and stuff. This is what they're doing. You understand what I'm saying? I got to show you. You understand? This book is a key, an important book you need to get. You understand? You need to get this book. It's got to be in here. I know it's in here. I know it's in here. If it ain't in here, it's in one of the other books, okay? It's in one of the other books. But what they're talking about, okay? Even the Asians, watch this. Even the Asians, the art of feng shui. If you read the art of feng shui, you'll see that came from us. Even the Asians who are practicing feng shui, you understand? That comes from us. I can read that and show you where that comes from. But feng shui is a practice. Hold on, I'll show you. You understand? Feng shui. I got the book on it, man. I'm telling you, your boy is studied. Okay? But feng shui it's a practice of another part of spiritual belief which come from us. Feng shui is about the aligning of and placing of things. Feng shui is about the aligning and placing of things inside your home where it has a flow. It creates a flow. And it creates a flow with what? It creates a flow with the connection of the universe. It creates a flow in connection to the universe because the universe is in a constant flow. And so feng shui is that every time you enter your house, everything is in its right place. That creates a universal flow. And so feng shui even is a part stolen from our divinity. And the Asians who practice this more so than anybody else, the Asians who practice feng shui, it came from us. You understand? I can go into that. I can break that down. I can show you. You understand? But I got to show you something else. What it's talking about here when it talked about Washington, D.C. Huh? I got to show you where it talked about Washington, D.C. You see? Huh? You see them? You see what they doing? Going in, poaching. Those are horns from I think those are rhinos. Huh? And getting the ivory, the tusk, going in, taking the tusk. They going in poaching and they going into the lands, poaching. You understand what I'm saying? So let me go back and find this. I gotta find this. It may not be in this book. I wish it was. I look in this book enough. It should be in this one. You understand? All right. Well, it might not be in here. It might not be in this one. I thought it was. Anyway, but basically, when you look at the map, when you look at Washington D.C. and you look at other parts of the world as they were naming, when you look at Washington, D.C. and all these parts of the world, you will see what they're talking about, the geomantic principles going back. It says for centuries, geomantic principles such as buildings around centers and aligning to the points of the compass were at the heart of all city planning as people came together in ever-larging settlements. The Egyptian hieroglyphs signifying the ideal city. The Egyptian hieroglyphs signifying the ideal city. And what were they doing? Taking these divine practices, okay, right out of Africa, and they were planning, and they were doing all their city planning around this divine knowledge, right? And so it says, and it was divided into 4 equal parts. The symbol came to represent the Egyptian belief that a city was a microcosm of the earth, which in turn was a microcosm of the entire universe. And just as the earth was marked by its diversity, the quarters of the ideal city were different from one to the next. Ideals very similar to this Egyptian belief seem to have sprung up independently in many parts of the world. 4 parts designed are the fundamental planning schemes for cities as diverse as Teotihuacan, Baghdad, Winchester, and Washington, D.C. There's an image, it got to be in this book, that shows you the geomantic layout. Basically, how these buildings, in Washington, D.C., the Pentagon, what's that called? The Washington Monument, the Capitol Hill, the White House, all these buildings inside of Washington, D.C. If you look at the geomantic layout, the goddamn answer is right here, showing you these Masonic people, how they built their cities, how they built their centers around what? Egyptian hieroglyphs. Understanding and looking at the signals and the signs inside the temples of our divine beliefs. And they were creating pentagons and other centers in Rome and here in America and other parts of the world. And this is what they practice. Why? So let me ask you a question. What are they practicing? They practice the religious or the divine. Why did I say religion? They practice the divine beliefs that we are a part of the cosmos. We are a part of the universe. This is what they practice. But they sold us a different belief. This is what they practice. They practice what we were practicing before them. They practice our divine beliefs before they were practicing them. And they went in and got them and created their centers and their pentagons and their monuments after this. Everything you look over in Washington, D.C., basically is saying, what this is saying is, when you look into Washington, D.C. and all these other cities they're talking about, you will see basically a geomantic layout. Basically what that means is, it's like physics and science. It's like they said, putting in aligning centers to where they are aligned with the constellations. They are aligned with the Orion, with Orion's belt and stuff like that. All of that. Astrology 101. They are aligning their centers and buildings, and still to this day, practicing our divinity and selling us a religion. And so I'm saying this to you, African. And I said Africans outside Africa, but I really mean every African, okay? The diaspora, okay? The whole diaspora, okay? I'm talking about the whole diaspora, African. I'm saying this to you, that you must come back to your true divinity, your righteousness. You must come back to the practice of your righteousness, that which was kept sacred, that which was kept sacred, that you held sacred to yourself. We must come back to this divine practice, this divine righteousness. We must come back to this righteousness, this divine practice of our righteousness, of what our ancestors really were practicing. Okay? We must come back to that. We must come back to that. And I'm not here to say, put down what you practice as your spiritual belief. I'm not here to say put down what you practice as your spiritual beliefs. If you practice, sorcery, wizardry, tarot reading, any of that kind of stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, whatever you do, you burning skulls and creating potions. You understand? Whatever you do, I'm not here to tell you drop that, because that was a part of our divinity too, as well. But we used it in the righteous way. We used it for healing and not cursing. Now, those who did it for cursing were of the evil spirit. You understand? Because our divinity was of righteousness, and we practiced it out of not just love, but out of righteousness. We did it out of righteousness. You understand what I'm saying? And so we got to come back to that, because they're blinding you. I don't say me, because I woke up from this, but they're blinding you. And I don't mean you here, but I mean those who will find this message and understand that, I practice, this is my religion and I love my religion. But if I can give you any proof, because they, put it in the books, it's all in history. This collection of books is like ancient type books. This is like old ancient type of books. You understand what I'm saying? Has a lot of stuff, a lot of knowledge hidden within these books that they write about, thinking that we're not going to find this stuff. But I end up coming across it because it came into my energy field, because I was looking for it. I manifested it because I was searching for it. I was searching for truth. And so these collection of books appeared. I got a whole collection of them. A bunch of them. They appeared in my consciousness. You understand what I'm saying? And so we got to go back. And spirituality, is nothing wrong with spirituality. Spirituality is not even a belief itself. You understand what I'm saying? It's not like, you got Christian, Muslim, Mormonism. It's not a religion itself. Spirituality is just it's painting your belief under a broad brush, calling it spirituality. It's painting your practices, our practices, and our beliefs under a broad brush called spirituality. Our divinity do not belong under the umbrella of spirituality. Our divinity do not belong under the umbrella of spirituality. It don't. Where all other doctrines reside. Our divinity do not belong under the umbrella of spirituality where all other doctrines reside. Our divinity don't belong there. Why? Because our divinity is the practice of righteousness. So we take our divinity, pull it out from under that umbrella, and we isolate that thing, and we practice that thing all alone in and of itself. Because guess why? Because they practiced it. They went in and they took it. They went in and they grabbed it. And they practiced it, and they put it in their centers. And they believe in it. They believe in the cosmos. They believe in the universe. They believe that everything is universal. They believe that everything is energy. They believe that everything is astrology. Why? Because they built their centers around it. Why? Because they built their temples around it. Why? Because they built their churches around it. Why? Because they built their buildings around this. These exact Egyptian hieroglyphic principles, geomantic principles. They do it. They practice what we've been practicing. And they don't practice what they teach us. They don't practice what they're telling us. They don't practice that. That's why they got secret societies. The Masonic Society. The Masonic Society is the practice of our divinity. The Masonic Society is the going within their own lodges, practicing this behind the scenes without us seeing it. Practicing this behind the scenes without us even seeing it. This is why they got secret societies like Masonic lodges, the Masonries, the Masons, and the Illuminati, and all these other kind of secret societies. You understand what I'm saying? So they take our divinity, they take it to their lodges, their Masonic lodges, their temples, and they practice it. And they sell you and I and they sell you and I something that they don't practice. They sell you and I something that they don't practice. Right? So they take that and they practice our divinity. We must take our divinity from underneath the umbrella of spirituality, because spirituality is a safe word for them. And they always ask you, oh, what spirituality do you practice? Or what's your religious beliefs? Or I say, I don't practice spirituality. I don't practice that. I practice Africanity. It is the practice of African divine knowledge and wisdom of my ancestors. Righteousness. I practice righteousness. This is what I practice. Righteousness. You understand? Staying in tune with myself. That's the practice of righteousness. Staying in tune with yourself. And this is why they were sacred. This is why these divine principles were sacred. Why? Because if anybody could get the key to your soul, they could. If anybody could get the key to your soul, then they get the key to your life. Then they can figure you out, and they know how to manipulate you. They know how to use you. And so the practice of righteousness was sacred. Why? Because we understood that to take away my mind, to take away my consciousness, to rob me of my consciousness is to rob me of the knowledge of myself. To rob me of my consciousness is to rob me from the knowledge of myself. And so I have to keep these practices sacred. These divine practices sacred, so that I do not become subject or slave to your ideology, your beliefs, your way of life. So I do not become enslaved to your way of believing. I must become knowledgeable of myself. And that is the practice of sacred divinity, divine righteousness. You understand? Divine righteousness. We must practice this. Divine righteousness. We must pull divinity from underneath the umbrella of spirituality. And we must isolate divinity. And we must keep it separate. Because to practice divinity is to practice righteousness. To practice spirituality is to practice a broad scope of a bunch of things. Okay? And you leave room for guessing. And you don't want to leave people room for guessing. What's your spirituality? Nah, you say, what's your divinity? Then people who understand what that is, they will understand that, oh, you practice righteousness. You practice divine righteousness. You practice divine truth. Yes, I do. Okay? So when you pull that thing out from underneath that umbrella, then spirituality becomes this umbrella that got a lot of other religious doctrines underneath it. It has a lot of beliefs underneath it. It has a lot of practices beneath it. And you are putting yourself and painting yourself into that same, you are putting yourself in the same bucket under that same umbrella with those practices. You got to isolate divinity. You got to take it from out under there. Because religion, Christianity is a form of spirituality. Islam is a form of spirituality. Being a Jehovah's Witness, that's a form of spirituality. You understand? Wizardry, that's a form That's a form of spirituality. The practice of all type of sorcery, magical stuff, that's a form of spirituality. It all can be under the umbrella of spirituality, but divinity is not spirituality. I'm sorry. Divinity is not spirituality. Divinity is divinity. It's its own thing. Divinity is the practice of what? Understanding that these principles was a microcosm of the earth, which in turn was a microcosm of the universe. Our practices, our divine practices, what we believed in, what our divinity was about, was the practice of things as above, so below, right? Was the practice of that our beliefs were a practice of everything. We are a microcosm of the macrocosm. We are a microcosm of the macrocosm. And the macrocosm is a form of the microcosm. We are a part of that, and that is a part of us. We understood that. We knew that. We wrote it on our walls and our temples. We wrote it on our walls and our temples, and now they take it and they build buildings around it, aligning themselves to these cosmic energies, aligning themselves aligning their buildings and their temples and their synagogues and their churches and their mosques to the alignment of what? To the alignment of the cosmos, the macrocosm, and it's also done in feng shui. It's also done in feng shui. The Asians even practice the same thing. It's all about aligning. See, they practice the aligning of their buildings with the universe and the cosmos and that energy. And feng shui is the same thing. It's nothing but the same thing. It's about aligning. They align things in their home. They align things. Their buildings are in tune with this feng shui energy, that everything is aligned, perfectly aligned with the cosmos, with the universe, with the energy of the macrocosm. Why? Because they believe in the as above, so below. They believe that we are a part of the macrocosm. And so when they feng shui their reality, they are creating in their life a flow of energy. And this is how they become successful. This is how they become rich. This is how they become wealthy. This is how they become wealthy. Huh? This is how they become rich. This is how they become very wealthy. Why? Because they align everything in tune with the energy. They understood this. This is why we were kings and we were gods. This is why we were higher selves. This is why we were ascended masters. This is why we were rulers. We were lords. This is why we were lords and we were rulers. We were kings and queens. This is why. Because we understood the prosperity and the abundance of divine righteousness, of practicing divine righteousness, allowing and making and tuning our lives to that of the macrocosm, so that we become one with the energy, one with the flow of the we become a macrocosm, a microcosm, so that we become a microcosm, one with the flow of the macrocosm, so that we become one with the macrocosm. We become and we flow with the macrocosm. We are in tune with the macrocosm. We are in synergy with the macrocosm. We are receiving because we are in tune. We are in flow. There is a synergistic energy. I don't know if I just made that word up. But there is a energy, okay, that we become in tune with because we've aligned ourselves with it. We've aligned ourselves with it and we become in tune with it. And then things begin to just flow in our lives. Abundance. Abundance flows within our lives. Abundance. This is why the Asians practice feng shui. It's about alignment. It's about alignment. Our divinity was about that. Our divinity was about the practicing of aligning our lives, our reality, ourselves with the macrocosm, because we understood that we are a microcosm of that macrocosm. So we were the first to do feng shui. We did the feng shui before feng shui was feng shui. We made feng shui sway. We swayed feng shui. You feel me? We swayed the feng shui. We were the feng shuiing. Feel me? We were the first aligners of the earth, of the what they say. It was a practice, the principles of the earth, here on earth, in the universe. Microcosm, macrocosm. This was our divinity. This was our divinity first, and still is. So my Africans, you can't be practicing under the umbrella of spirituality. You must practice under the umbrella of divinity, and let that be your beliefs. And from divinity, can you do all these other things that you practice now? From divinity, can you do all these other things? Like I practice under the divine messages, conscious belief, conscious reality. This is a practice and a belief for me. You understand what I'm saying? Understanding that astrology, biology, and psychology is all spirituality. This is my spirituality belief. Biology, astrology, psychology. Putting those things together. Creating a spiritual belief around that. But I don't call it spiritual. I look at it more as a divine belief. Because I understand that. I understand the biology. I understand that the biology is a study of self. C-E-L-L-F. Self. I understand that psychology is the study of behavior, mental behavior. So it is the study of the mind. Psychology is the study of the mind. And I understand that astrology is the study of energy, the study of the macrocosm and the microcosm, bringing the 1 and 2 together, making one, and then fine-tuning your life and getting in tune with that, aligning your life with that, so that it creates a flow of energy. And then abundance comes into your life. And so I manifest whatever I say I want. Because I get in tune with it. And I get into a flow, a rhythm. And because I get into a flow with it, it comes. Because I'm not asking, I'm pulling. Which is a form of taking. But you don't have to force. You don't have to force anything. You don't have to force anything. You understand? You don't have to force anything. If you pull it in. You pull it in. Because you create a divine, righteous, magnetic field that pulls in everything you want. And so you kind of, in a way, do take what's yours, but you're not taking it by force. You're taking it because it's righteously, it's your birthright to have. It's yours. Hold on, I gotta read this comment real quick. From my man Keith. Keith? Is that Keith? Let me read from Keith. He said, I believe that fallen celestial beings came to the earth, perverted creation with half-truths, and made demigod children. Okay, Egyptians received knowledge. That was... I feel you, Keith. Yes, I feel you, bro. I feel you. I feel you. Okay? So let me end off by saying this. We got to take back our divinity. Because they practice it. These evil you feel me? They practice it. They look evil as hell. I see the devil in their eyes. You feel me? You can see the devil. They practice it. They practice true divinity. We must come back to divinity. Wake our minds up. Be conscious. Stay conscious. Stay awoke in this belief. I hope you all got something from this. I hope you all got something from this. I hope that you share this. I hope that you wake some people up with this message of divinity, spirituality versus divinity. People need to know that spirituality is too broad to be planting yourself under. But if you plant yourself under the umbrella of divinity, then what happens is when you're practicing divinity, you're practicing righteousness. And when you are practicing righteousness, my people, when you are practicing righteousness, guess what? You don't have to force anything to come out or come in. It will pull itself out of you and it will pull itself into you because the righteousness of that which you practice will show up because you remove yourself out the way and allow righteousness to take place because you're practicing that. You remove yourself out the way and you allow righteousness to play that part. And so you pull in righteousness, the things that are righteous, and you pull out the things that are righteous. And so you become a version of true divine righteousness. And you must practice divinity. And then you can put all the other stuff that you practice up under that umbrella. And that becomes righteous by default. That becomes righteous by default. You dig what I'm saying? Okay? So, I appreciate you being here. I'm thankful that you sat this long with me. And I want to say that I love me. Again, I break down. Why do I say I love me? Because I understand that you are not separate from me. I'm not separate from you. We are truly one. And if I say I love you, I'm really, when I say I love you, when I say I love me, I'm really saying I love you. Because you are me. I am you. So when I say I love me, I'm saying I love you. And in order for me to say I love you, then there must be love in me. And so therefore, I don't say I love you, because loving, the word you separates us. So I say I love me because I see me as you and you as me. You're not my mother. You're not my brother. You're my other. You're the other version of me. I'm the other version of you. I love me. Peace.